What's going on, guys? Sam Johnson back here with Scale Labs RC, and tonight we are back for another episode, and I have the one and only Coale Dolbert. What's up, dude?
For having me. I appreciate it.
Hey, no problem. You are one of the guys that I very much look forward to seeing every time we go to the racetrack. So
One reason or another, I'm sure.
yeah, yeah. No, no, man. You've been since I've started. You've been nothing but kind to me, and I appreciate that immensely. So you're a good dude. You're one of the good ones for sure. So and you're damn fast too. So you are. I mean, anywhere we go, you're going to have to be one of the guys that somebody's going to have to beat if they want to win. So
Do my best.
it's cool. It's more than deserving to have you on for sure. And then I know that you had a huge, massive part. You were part one or 1A, however you want to look at it,
Yeah.
for the Prelude and the Rumble that we
For
talked
sure.
on a couple episodes ago with Zach Gokin. So I had to have you on too because it wasn't all just Zach and his family. It was you and your family too. So it wasn't never would have been fair to have just Zach on. So that's why I reached out to you immediately. So
Yeah, absolutely. Four Rocks was an interesting discovery. I heard about some go-kart guys going out there and laying it down, and we had to go see what it was all about. I mean, at the end of the day, when you see a good facility, you get praise from the go-kart guys that are also hard to please. You got to go check it out. I had my sprint car with me that day, kind of put it on the track. Did not have any expectations. Threw a set of quasis on, ran it, uh, charged up a battery, and come to find out they run my laps as well. So they had timing set up, and it was really cool to see some of the outlaw carts go around, and then after they were done, go right out and run 2/10 faster than they did. So that was kind of cool to go on a big track and kind of set a little exhibition. From there, we weren't really sure what the dirt was going to be, etc. There was a lot of variables. That's why we kind of put together that Prelude. Um, that was a week-long endeavor of trying to lay a track down that we'd never played with that kind of dirt. I mean, quite frankly, it's horseshit dirt. You don't know what you're going to get, and we ended up with a pretty good program there at the very least. I know we had some weather that impacted that. It was really tough to battle that adversity just because it's completely 100% out of our hands. We come back, licked our wounds, thanked everybody for the great turnout even with the weather, and rolled it into the new year with a program that we only had virtually 24 hours to make a track happen. There was some rodeo stuff going on that didn't allow us to get in there. So we got in there New Year's Eve, and we sacrificed our New Year's Eve to provide a track for everybody around, and they were very responsive to that. It's really awesome, man, just to provide a place, for somebody to come and hang out and do their thing and just kind of let loose and enjoy it.
no, absolutely. And I know from I was at both of them and had to end up jetting out early because of the storm on the first one, but so did, I would say 2/3 of everybody else. So I don't
Absolutely.
necessarily feel bad about that. But the big thing there was like what a cool event is for anybody in RC. Like that was, you don't really see too many pop-ups, if you want to call it that, and for that to happen and for it to be at that scale, and then on the actual Rumble itself to draw the people that were there. I mean, you had people from out of the country there.
Yeah.
I mean, how
And
cool is that?
just to have an international presence. The first year you don't expect a whole lot. You just expect, some of the guys that have supported you over the years. Luckily, we had a pretty good following when it came to Cedar Bluff and Farmer City, and the sponsors came together to provide that as well to help out. Um, it was overwhelming the amount of support that we got in our first year. We're really excited to roll that into next year.
And obviously it's already been kind of talked about, but definitely something that you guys are going to be bringing into the future, and this is going to has the potential at least to be a staple in our side of the hobby for quite some time, I would say.
Absolutely. I think the first track was a little treacherous in terms of you're wearing tires a little quicker than we'd necessarily like. But as far as the second race goes, I mean, I ran 2 classes and only went through 3 sets of tires the entire weekend, and that's practice included. So it was definitely a lot less abrasive. I'm not going to say it's not, but when you go to a big race, you got to expect to burn a few sets. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things. When the prep gets laid down or when guys are heating tires, etc. That's going to happen. It's par
Yeah.
for the course.
Yeah. And so one thing that I really wanted to ask you specifically was, so what is it like for you to put on that event? You know, you are again the one of the largest portions of why this is here, why this is happening. So you're wearing so many hats. You know, I've seen you on the golf cart. You're handling, you know, entries with people and handling everything that needs to be handled. You're a part. Your hands are on it, right? So what does that look like for to also be a driver, like to go and you competed? I mean, you were in the A for both classes you were running. I mean, you're going to have to be the guy to beat. I mean, you're one of the guys to beat at least. So what does that look like for, is it as simple as on off switch, or what does that look like in your mindset for that?
Really, the transition has to come from it takes a village. I may be doing a lot of those things around there, but it takes a lot of people to come together to make that happen. I mean, from all the help we had the day before to help put up walls, all the thankless things that we may not be able to necessarily monetarily pay these folks, but we can take care of them in other ways and make sure that they're feeling the same way and feeling good about it. I mean, from Molly at the registration to all the people that showed up, like I said, for walls to uh, the facility owner, opening up his facility to us and understanding, taking a risk on us. We didn't have anything to prove except for the track up the road. And he's taking our word for it and understanding that we're going to corral all these knuckleheads and make sure they stay in line. So I would say wearing both hats is definitely an interesting choice. I don't think I'm going to run two classes next year. I think I'll limit it to one and just make sure the track is as good as it can be. And like I said, it takes a village. It's far more than one, but it takes a unit and people to come together to make it happen.
Yeah. So to roll into that, then let's talk about actually the track build. I think there'd be so many people out here really interested to know kind of what you guys had to go through. I mean, we already know kind of about the limited timeline and the time crunch, but take us back to New Year's Day or New Year's Eve, and you guys walk in there and then take us through the kind of the story from New Year's Eve to, you know, first laps of practice on that Friday.
Yeah, so we took some tracks in the area and we kind of measured them up. So since I'm involved in Farmer City and involved somewhat in Cedar Bluff and helping those guys out, I know the dimensions of the tracks and kind of what racers look for. And over the course of the years of being in the hobby and being around all these folks that have been around for years, taking feedback and understanding, hey, this is something that we need to take in consideration. Some people don't like huge super speedways, but some people don't like necessarily hairpin corner tight tracks either. And that's probably one experience from Farmer City I could compare to Cedar Bluff. You're not going to run the same gearing. You're not going to run probably half the stuff that you would just because a big track to a smaller track. They both have characteristics that are different fundamentally. We tried to kind of make best of both worlds, right? So there was solid banking. So we cut that in with a box drag. That was an interesting approach that we had to learn. So the second time around, we were a lot better off. Realized that we needed to go in the racing direction rather than in reverse. Just little things, little fine tuning stuff that we could always make a little better. But holistically, I think making that middle ground and finding, like for instance, a 35-foot straightaway. I know it's an arbitrary number, just throwing it out there, but X amount width in the curve and making sure that, there's multi-groove. And I think we accomplished that. I mean, I'll leave it to the folks in the comment section after to let us know. But from my perspective, I could see 2, 3, even 4 wide potentially in how wide we had that groove.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, you could race kind of all over it, and one of the big things for those who weren't at either event, and you're kind of just hearing about the Rumble for the first time. I mean, Cole, you can talk about it. The best here is like, there was at least felt like I don't want to use the word significant, but a good bit more banking in the second track, or at least where it was cut down, where the berm was more aggressive on the inside. So maybe it's a optical illusion, but the second track was like, I mean, I honestly don't know how you could have made the second track much better for us. Like, it was so good to race on. Not that the first one was bad for the Prelude at all, but man, that second track, you guys really had your stuff dialed in, and you could tell that the Prelude really paid dividends for you guys.
Absolutely. And I mean, like I said, it was crowd feedback, right? So at the end of the day, we're only as good as the racers that come and show up, right? So if they're telling us, hey, I have a little problem with this or a little problem with that, we're going to hear them and make those adjustments. One big thing that people were a little upset about at the Prelude, not necessarily upset, but just think we could have done a potential better job is cutting down that infield a little bit to where they could see on the backstretch coming out of 2. So something little, a little oversight, but we made that adjustment. We chopped it down and made sure that people could see their cars the whole way.
Yeah, no, for sure. And then, so like when you guys go in there and you're building that track, what does that look like as far as, when we start talking about equipment and things like that, as well as even the walls. I love the walls that you guys use, and I know you and I have even talked about it as basically playground barrier. And I know tracks kind of in the Midwest like BB Mods and others do use that as well. When you cut that track, do you guys cut the track and the track's completely done and then you put the walls up, or do you put the walls up first and then cut the track inside of it?
Yeah, so the local playground is going to be without walls for a little while. We'll return them when the springtime comes. But what we do is we cut in the track. Basically, it's like a blank canvas when you go out there. It's flat, there's nothing to it, right? So you put a stake in the ground, you flag it off, you measure it all out, and I basically painted on the ground where we wanted to start. Again, it's not going to be exact, but I could tell you the first time around, our race line was 179 feet. The second time around, it was 181. So to build a track 2 times over and to have it within 2 feet of each other is pretty awesome. So it just comes down to calculating it. So if you do the diameter of the curve, and then you do the straightaways, and then just worry about the walls after, it's the best way to do it, in my opinion.
Nice. And then last kind of thing of talking about the Rumble before we go into your personal racing is the unsung hero that I think needs to be discussed is the trailer for the driver's stand. Yeah. That thing, when you look at that at first, it's like, oh hell, there's gonna be 8 dudes that fall off this thing. Right. And then you get up there and it is like, the transition is nothing. It is as sturdy as walking off of flat ground onto this trailer. So kind of how did you guys come about that? And what was the idea behind, or who came up with the idea or whatever about, let's pull this trailer up here, put it up, and how did you guys get it where it was so rigid for all the drivers?
So I will say that is Tim Gokin's brainchild. He found that trailer on Marketplace, picked it up for damn near a steal, in my opinion. I think it was used as like a lawn company's trailer. It was kind of clapped out. He put a facelift on it, made it all tight and right. Basically, we just blocked all 4 corners. We just put some supports on all 4 corners, and then berms up with dirt for the trailer to get the ramps where you can walk up and walk right back down. Make it just as seamless as we possibly could, just because I know we do have some racers that need some handicap accessibility, which we need to make sure we provide. So
sure. No, absolutely. And I know those guys obviously appreciate it. It was just so easy on and off that, everybody appreciated it, I'm sure. So, but yeah, all right, man. Well, anything else you want to touch on for the Rumble or the Prelude or anything? I want to, make sure that the floor is yours before we move on to the next thing.
Yeah, I think it's definitely something that if you haven't been and you want to check out, feel free to come by. Anybody will talk to you. It's a great community, and that's what we love to provide. So with that, be on the lookout for what we come out with. I believe we're going to keep the same dates, but we're gonna be able to confirm that here soon. So
cool.
More to come.
Yeah. And I know Scale Labs will make sure we share all that when it comes out. So
of course,
for sure. We got to do our first pit walk around as Scale Labs when so that was always
Heck
cool.
Yeah. But just getting off the ground, I liked it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, all right, man. Well, we've talked about everything, as far as the Rumble and Prelude and all that, and everything, the brainchild of so many people, including yourself. The harder thing to talk about now is let's talk about yourself. I know nobody likes to talk about themselves all the time, but like I said, if you won't say it, I'll say it. You are one fast SOB. Again, anybody who doesn't know Coale, any track in the Midwest or any track, frankly, he goes to, period, you're going to have to run through Coale you're going to have to beat him. He's going to be one of the guys you have to beat. And one thing that I know about you that everybody may not know is you are not afraid of doing some weird stuff or trying some stuff you definitely don't go about things as far as setup, maybe the traditional way. And I know I love that about you. Team GFRP driver. And so talk to us about that, man. Talk to us about kind of where your mind goes when you're trying to develop a setup and why you're so willing to be kind of off grid, and how do you take that being different to such an extreme and also be so friggin' fast?
So for me, it was something that it's been a long time coming. So to talk about the end, you got to kind of go back to the beginning. So I just got started at RC at a very young age. Was very fortunate to have an off-road track in the backyard that I could run around and pick up RC cars. So the radio didn't start in the hand; it was flipping them over, running around, all those things. There's a video out there. I'm not gonna surface that video and save you guys the scarring, but yeah, man. I mean, it started back then, early on with pan cars. I was blessed to go to the Snowbirds at 8 years old and run stock pan car. It was something I really enjoyed, something I always cherish. I won the H main. I mean, I remember that race from 20, almost 22 years ago. That just is in the back of my mind. So anytime I come to think about things or maybe some adversity in a race, that is probably one that I think back on the most, and that's maybe something that people just don't know. I was the H main. I was 8 years old, running against a bunch of adults, and I was super intimidated at first. And so I got out there, and I was in the lead, and I got completely blindsided by this guy, and my car flipped and went out of the track. It caved in the roof of the car. Like, I thought it was over. I was devastated as a kid. They pop the hood back, or pop the roof back up and get the car back going. I get my lap back, and before you know it, I come back around and get the guy again. And so I ended up winning that, and I think back to that a lot because it's a cherished memory with not only my family, my dad, Todd Johnson was there, Eugene Ryder, Rob Mulvaney, some of the bigger names in RC that have been around a long time. I'm sure there was more that I don't remember. I'm sure Dustin was there because it was Hyperdrive GFRP around that time, and his brother was probably there. There's probably a ton of people that I forget to mention. Tony Stewart was there. That was a cool thing. I don't know, just started there and kind of grew ever since, moving into, running stadium trucks and carpet off-road, and then transitioning from there into oval, and kind of got the bug from dirt oval and never changed from there. So just enjoying it, man. If you're scared to try something, or you're a little comfortable in your setup, I urge you to got to think outside the box. Maybe push a limit here or push a limit there to try to see what you can achieve. Just because, I mean, I know you're kind of alluding to my late model setup, because it is kind of wild with how much rake and all that stuff. But yeah, that's pretty much it, man. I don't know. That's about all I got for now.
Yeah. So what do you think as a racer, at least in your opinion, of what allows you to be so consistent though with your speed? Like I don't think that it's not common. It is, but it isn't. It's not common to show up anywhere you want to go and you're going to be fast. And like, the fast guys are going to be fast. I get it, but like, help us understand a little bit of like, what is that kind of next level that somebody needs to get to that you're clearly on?
So going into the thinking differently, or maybe thinking in a different aspect, is I don't change my setup track over track. I don't have a miracle cure setup for this track or a miracle cure setup for that track or what have you. I go in, and after maintenance and after reset, going back to pretty much a base that I just stick with. So that way I know no matter what track I go to, okay, if I start in the center hole of the hubs in the rear, if it's not gripped up, I go down. If it's gripped up, I go up, certain things like that. And there's just, stick to what's true to you and find that one person in the RC world that you want to listen to. Because when you go chasing your tail, is what I call it, in through the pits, and you ask this person for advice and this person for advice and this person for advice, you're going to get 3 different answers, and all of them, which may be true, are going to lead you to different results because it's the way they would do it. So it's all about the flavor of ice cream. That's just the way I'll put it. But
yeah. And I know, so anybody who watches our Wrench and Wednesdays and stuff like that we do, and I've talked about it with people on stream before, or on podcast before too, number one, screaming about the baseline. I mean, having that good baseline, like you just said, I mean, that is kind of, maybe not everything, but it's a lot. Like, it is a significant percentage of the, if you have a good place and a good place to start from each race, I mean, that's going to take, you figure that's taking X amount of laps off of every practice session you have to go do to find something, or, X amount of time that it takes to be able to go and find something. But the last thing that you hit on is the thing that I owe you the most credit for my own personal racing. You had enough gumption about you to pull me aside at PTs and you were like, hey dude, like as soon as you ask me something, you go out and you go ask 3 other people before you make it back to your pitter. And we were sitting pretty close. And you were like, hey, and then you just told me the exact same thing. And I've taken that to heart since then. And I have no problem talking to people, obviously, but I don't go out and seek setups from every single person that I can reach out to now. And that I owe you a big thank you, because that was, without you saying that, I could have really put myself in a hole as far as people not wanting to interact with me at all. So thank you, and I wish there was more. Of you out there, because there's a lot of guys that do get caught in that rut, and it is, people are so willing to help that there are times where we're always griping about how team guys need to help and all that, but some of these people who are asking for help need to find that lane too.
Yeah.
And
No, absolutely.
it's really big.
Well, and it comes along the lines like, there may not be such a thing as stupid questions, but there is bad advice. So if you're not, fully confident in who you're getting it from, I would do your own research as well. Like, don't just take what I say as gospel, or what you say as gospel, or what any other guy says in the sport or as gospel, because, not that they would lead you astray, but they have a different way of doing things. So just understand that, if you find a guy that you see that, or gal, for instance, that you see out there that has a really good driving style that maybe fits you better, go with that. I prefer a car that's consistent over a car that's just ballistic fast. Like, I'm not looking for that fast time. I'm not looking for the top 5 average or whatever. I'm looking at the top 15 and above. I'm looking at the percentage of which I'm consistent and the deviation of that number. If I can be as consistent as I can be and hit that mark every single time, it's gonna be hard to beat somebody that way, regardless of who it is. So don't chase the speed as much as you do the consistency, because the speed will come.
Yeah, and I think that's really, really hard for people to comprehend. Like when you get on Live RC, I think it's just human nature. The first thing you want to look at, what's fast lap, and it's so hard to get yourself out of that. Like I know guys like you, and I've heard Jared Howard talk about only thing he looks at is 15 lap average, and other guys like that is huge. And I'm so like I haven't got to even looking at the 15 lap average yet. Like I only look at consistency. I am like right now, if I can run 98 or above, typically I had a pretty good race. I try to be like, my goal every time I set the car down, and I want to be 95 or above, and then that 98 is typically pretty sporty. But I think that's something that's really, really important for people to understand is, yeah, maybe don't look at that fast lap as much or put as much weight into it, because there are a ton of, just as much as there's variables through the consistency side and all that, fast lap. And I learned this a lot, or I seen this a lot at PTs, for example, this weekend. Like, man, I am friggin' slow. And then you go through and look, and it's like, well, I ran a 4.5 for, out of the 30 laps, I ran a 4.5 for 20 something of them. Well, okay, this guy ran a 4.3, so I'm 2/10 slower than that guy when you look at my fast lap. But he ran a 4.3 once. And then for the other 29 laps, he ran a 4.6, several 4.7s, and then lived around the 4.6, 4.5 timeline. And it's like, you never know. Like, somebody could spin out, somebody could cut the track, somebody could do all kinds of stuff and have a weird line that's given all this kind of, for lack of a better term, false information. So I think it is really important that, don't put as much weight into that fast lap as everybody's saying. And I agree with what you're saying there for sure.
And I'll just say that, about, you alluded to PTs a bit there, and the sprint car heat races, you can look back at PTs from this past weekend, and between Jared as the TQ and me in P2, our times in a 2.5 minute race were 0.01 apart. If you look back at it, I think it was 0.01 or 0.005, I forget which, but I believe it was 0.01 in between the two of us in a 2.5 minute run. So you're talking about consistency. That's it right there. So I don't know. I went to PTs this past weekend, and I left the tires on my car. I know they're dirty. People are going to heckle me for that. They're still dirty. But this is after a full race day at PTs, unprepped, glued, and mounted. That's it. That's absolutely it. I tested the theory. Plus, I wanted to scuff in tires for Motorama. So every time I went out was on a brand new set. And this car got new sets, and the late model back there got new sets. These have 2 or 3 runs on them at PTs, including a mod sprint A-main. I don't see much wear. I don't see much wear.
I don't see any.
Now, I'm not saying that that's always the way it was, because last weekend it was gripped up and we were railing the top, and it was all you could give to give it more trigger. So different circumstances, but it's definitely something to call out because, I mean, no prep, A-main, third place in that car and second with the other one with no prep. So focus on the right things, get your car right, get your tires right after. It's not everything. It's definitely something, don't get me wrong, but it's not everything.
And you just said, everybody listening, the man just said second and third. Well, you ran second and third too. The rest of the guys in there were also some of the best dudes in the country. So
100%.
I mean, all of you guys are just so fun to watch. But one thing that didn't get mentioned there is they had that thing. So you said they had it hooked up, but you're missing out on, they had it so hooked up that you guys were, I personally watched a lot of you guys take motors out and make sure they got back to your motor guys and all that. I mean, they were, I personally took Justin's car back for him to his pit spot, and you guys were wailing on those things.
Yeah, to throw temperatures out there, I throw it on the data analyzer there and data programmer, whatever you want, programmer box for Hobbywing, and it was about 225. So that's up there. Definitely a lot hotter than you want it to be. I thought about soldering in at a 6.0, but for a club race night, it just wasn't something I wanted to do. But yeah, we threw it at it, and it lasted the whole run, and it was warm. Let's just put it that way. It was warm. It did its job though. I mean, it didn't fade. It just got hot. So
good, cool. And then I believe that was a Witz as well, to give them a shout out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That was a Witz motor. My mod sprint 7.0.
Cool. Yeah, I know. I know Justin's a Witz guy. So yeah, Witz is they're not gaining traction. They're here. So they're doing them really well in the game, and that's cool. So
yeah, man.
But all right, dude. Well, some more questions I got for you here. Number 14.
Yeah.
Tell us about why number 14.
14 is Tony Stewart's number. So I kind of talked about Tony Stewart being at Snowbirds there and cool stuff like that. There's a little bit more history to the 14 than I've kind of ever talked about. 14D, so D for my last name. 14 is a Mod Podge of a few numbers. Eugene was number 11, as you know. So my dad is 112, so 112. And he's got all his own history with that number at Farmer City Racetrack and all that fun stuff. But if you add up 112, it makes a 4. And Eugene was a 1 and a 1, so 14 kind of made sense along those lines too. So that's kind of where we were at with that. It's kind of the mix of the two. I was going to go with 20, but it seemed like there's quite a few out there. 14 up here on the wall, as you see the sprint car side panel there, it's all mangled. That's Corey Day. That's the last time he ran it at Peevely. He wadded it up pretty good, but he's a hell of a wheel. And I ended up taking that home. They left it behind, and I scavenged it home.
Cool. Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was Jason Myers, Spencer Basin, or Corey's. So,
yep.
But that's cool.
That was 2 years ago yet, but yeah.
Nice. Yeah, and then Corey's obviously he's a big
Trucks.
NASCAR guy now. So.
Trucks. Damn it. I was hoping he'd stay on dirt for long enough to kick ass, and he did, but he would have really set the tone for some of these guys to light the fire again.
For sure. Absolutely. And so one thing that I do want to touch on as well is, and it could be a good story behind it, is you've mentioned Eugene Ryder, a great racer in his own right, especially back in the day. With zero disrespect in this comment, Eugene's getting a little bit older, so he's the not fall off, because he's still damn fast, but who is Eugene to you? And within the family, and kind of give Eugene his flowers as well, so people can
Yeah,
kind
no,
of know him a little
absolutely.
bit.
So him and my dad go way back. They were really good friends and racing together all over the country. They'd put me in the back seat. I'd be riding in the truck, going all over, whether it be Ohio, as far out as Pennsylvania, stuff like that. Anywhere they could race, they did it. Um, as far as Eugene goes, I mean, some people joke around with him at snowbirds because three-peat, all that fun stuff. There's some lore about that. He's a multiple snowbirds champion. He's won a lot of races, a lot of places. I mean, when you're around for as long as you are, it's hard not to it's hard to change with the times, and he's done a damn good job of it. I feel like he's kept with it and stuck around a long time with the sport. He's like an uncle I never had. Um, he's not a blood uncle. We go out and do things and whatever. They're like, "Is that your dad?" I'm like, "No, it's my uncle." Like, um, so we travel everywhere, do some crazy stuff. Go to West Virginia, ride side by sides every year, and certain things like that. But yeah, man. I mean, Eugene's up there. He's definitely one of those guys that he's won a lot of races, a lot of places, and knows a lot of things. So definitely somebody I learned from, and hell, I learned from a lot of people. I was blessed to be around the sport at a good time, to where I got out of it for a brief time. That high school age, college age. You doing a little more studious things or sports or whatever. But man, I grew up at such a great time in RC, and I'm blessed to have that around, and all those years of knowledge and leaning on those guys. But yeah, I mean, that's basically it.
Sure. And then so you just kind of alluded to it there, and I want to make sure we touch on that as well. You are maybe not now, but relatively recently used to be a pretty damn good athlete.
Yeah, I played college soccer and ran track. I was definitely better at the track portion. I was all state in high school in soccer, but kind of petered out in college, lost the drive for it and everything else. But yeah, I was a high jumper in track and field. Highest ever jumped was 6 feet 8 inches, so I was up there. Uh, just a passion I had. Threw some javelin in college too. It was a lot of fun. Got to learn that. Just little stuff like that, man.
Yeah, nice. And so back kind of going back to RC, I know on all of your cars you have FCRC, and then you
Yep.
call Farmer City home
Yep.
yourself. Tell us about your kind of involvement with Farmer City. Well, if people don't know, Farmer City RC is essentially right on the other side of the horse track of the world famous Farmer City Raceway, the big track. So you call Farmer City home. I'm assuming we can find you at the Illini 100. I'm assuming we can find you at the Farmer City 74 and all that too. But tell me about growing up in Farmer City and the just racing heritage that comes with that community.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was not one that was going to the football games on the Friday night. So we weren't going to the football games. We were going to the racetrack. That's just something we always did. Dad was either working the track and either being a flagman on the backstretch or various jobs. Right now, I think he's still doing push trucking when he's available. And I'll go out there if I'm in town for a race weekend or something like that. I'll pack the track early before we hit hot laps and be able to do that official stuff. It's just cool, man. Nothing wrong with a little bit of dirt tracking, and the community there in big cars is just as good. I feel like people willing to talk to you, shoot the shit, do all the fun stuff. But as far as FCRC, I mean, it's something that Dad's been involved with, and he kind of brought me on board with too. And Matt's been great. The fair board's been a blessing to us to kind of give us that opportunity to have that land there, and we've got ample pit space. I mean, we could put on a pretty damn big show and get some good publicity, and we got a big one on the docket this year, so really excited for that. Paul and Tom are kind of a part of that too, and helping with certain things, this and that. But yeah, man, we're excited. It's been 10 years this past summer, so we've been there at Farmer City getting those things done, and really been a blessing.
Very cool. Yeah. And I know, like, for me personally, all the places that I've got an opportunity to run this summer and this winter, Farmer City is one of my favorite. I am not admittedly, I'm not very comfortable on a big track. I'm not a big track guy as far as RC is concerned, but Farmer City definitely scratches the itch. It's about as bull ring can get, even in our RC world for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a 8-foot diameter corner with like 25, 30-foot straightaways. So just to put it in perspective, it's tight, it's banked, multi-line. Like you can run top, middle, bottom, and they're pretty much relatively the same lap times. Obviously, you got a little bit of fall off depending on the track and what the bottom looks like. But man, it's a fun racing surface. We've got a lot of good things coming. We've made a lot of improvements in the past few years. Yeah, I mean, from being around and seeing all the progressions of the different tracks and the eras of RC, when I first started was getting into racing in dirt oval. There wasn't adjustable toe. Like you just didn't have it. It was all suspension based, shocks, spring packages, all that fun stuff. You didn't have the toe to use as a quote unquote crutch, right? So that's kind of the way I think about it first. So going back to what you talked about with settings and setup and stuff, like I don't jump to toe right away. I like to set it and kind of use it if all the other things are exhausted. So it's another thing to think about coming from the early ages of RC before that stuff was around. Being around from Allen's back in the day to the original Jacksonville with Dan's father, to man, just so many different tracks that have come and been around. RJD back in the day when they used to run a lot more oval stuff than they do now. They're more off road these days, but just humble beginnings, man. Small town stuff with Farmer City, and my graduating class was 56 kids, so everybody knew everybody. If you were doing anything, they knew before you even got home. Your parents did what you were doing. Just overall good community.
Cool. And so one thing that I don't even know about you, what do you what do you call a living? What do you do to make a living, and all that as well outside of RC?
Yeah, so I work in IT by trade. I manage project management, manage development teams for a living. Work in the AI space. I know that's some people that can be a little eerie about that, but it's doing some pretty cool work with AI as far as helping with call transcriptions, different things like that for telecommunications company that I work for. So
Cool.
yeah, man.
Awesome. Heck yeah. Well, dude, we're we can make this one kind of short and sweet. I've got 3 questions that I ask everybody that comes on,
All right.
and it's the same ones to end an episode with everybody,
Let's
and
get
then we can get out of here. So, question number 1 is what is one tech tip or piece of knowledge that you feel every racer should know?
Tech tip or piece of knowledge that every racer should know. I'm gonna look this over real fast. One thing that I like to pride myself on is a diff. And I know a lot of people have talked about diffs lately and different things with diffs and all that fun stuff. Getting one consistent. So making sure that you set it right the first time. Whatever process that you have, everybody will tell you something a little different. But that's kind of an intricacy that will make or break your car. As far as the setup, if my late model is off or my sprint car is off or whatever car I'm running is off, I check the diff first. That's the first thing. It's a benchmark. Once you have it and you check that diff number, or I think there was a video that was just posted either today or the day before about how to hold the spur gear and things like that and check your tightness and things. Whatever system you have for that, just make sure that you check it. Because if it's diffing out in the middle of the corner, it's going to make the car do a lot of weird things, excuse me. And it's so important. It's crucial. Making sure you have the right fluids that you're using. What comes in the kit is great, but feel free to experiment to your desire. I would say that there's different things that I've found that help a lot. I mean, I know I've used the 1-Up grease. I've used some legacy stuff that isn't even around anymore. I've tried to get some of that stuff, sent off and remade over the years, but you have to have a certain sample size and all that fun stuff. But yeah, I would say the diff is crucial. rebuilding your shocks, crucial. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. There's just so many things. I mean, ESC settings are crucial. Radio settings are crucial. I mean, there's so many things that you could spend time. Like I could pick up my radio right now and learn new things about it. Like we just don't know enough as a hobbyist or as a racer to really get into that and set some of those things up that others may know. So do your research, and I would say diff would be the top dog for that.
Sure. And then do you have any, without giving your whole miracle system on how you put things together, do you have any, tips for anybody listening on, when they go to put a diff together, like, hey, this could help or this could hurt even? I mean, either way.
Yeah. So I would say crunch the spring. That's probably a big factor too. When you first get that spring, make sure you give it a few squeezes, maybe even a hold, to make sure, like put it in pliers and just kind of put your hand over it to make sure it doesn't go flying if you don't have it in there all the way. But just give it a few squeezes, break that initial like release there. I feel like they're kind of tight in the beginning. So if you put it together and then it finally settles, then you're going to have a really weird diff initially. Break-in process is huge. Don't just go out there after a fresh diff and run it and rip it, because you'll just be taking it out and putting a new one in. Kind of hold one side. I hold one wheel. Like if I had this car here, I would hold one wheel and obviously have it on a bench to where I hold one, creep the motor up to where it starts to turn, and then hold one, a minute and a half or so, take it off, hold the other one, minute and a half, so on. But it just basically builds a little bit of heat, a little bit of memory, and sets everything where it should be. There's not really any, like you said, too many tips and tricks that are overly secretive. I mean, I feel like everything is pretty much out there, and I think there's a lot of good things in the hobby right now with what just happened this past weekend, PTs and things like that, with people coming forward and kind of opening the book, kind of try to bridge that gap and make everybody better. So.
Yeah. And what you're alluding to there was the PT's garage. And I was, myself and Scale Labs as a whole was able to be a part of that. And that was a really cool, I know every panel that sat down, there was something that felt like all of us learned, or was like, oh, that's an interesting way of doing that, maybe we don't do or whatever. So, yeah, that was 100%. That was good. And hopefully, more people kind of follow suit, more places, where, more and more of that knowledge can get out, rather than it being, trapped up here with so many people. So
that's a great point. I mean, taking notes is huge. If you're not taking notes, you're doing yourself a disservice. I've got notes on my phone. I've got notes written out that I keep at the house for my own viewing. But I mean, take notes, make an adjustment, do something. If the car's not good, wholesale it if you have to. Play with it a little bit and see what you're going to do. But what I'll say is, not necessarily wholesale it in a way that you're making a bunch of adjustments at once. Change one thing, learn what that one thing does, write it down. Change another thing, learn what that one thing does, write it down. Because if you're changing 4 different things, you go out there and run it and you're like, oh my God, this is amazing, but you can't recreate it because you changed 4 things, not one, then you don't really know what you did. You don't really know where you're at. So then you're chasing your tail some more and some more and some more. It just kind of snowballs. So that's another thing I would definitely recommend to most people.
Yeah, as many notes as you can. I know, like on a standard race day for me, I'm not sure what what level you're taking notes, but I know I can fill out a couple pages. Typically, I try to take notes every single time I'm on the racetrack. So I break it down in practice 1, practice 2, whatever it is, and then I changed this, and this, and then I can link it back to that work that didn't, and it, I know in my own personal racing, I haven't had many results to show for it yet, but I feel like personally, like I'm coming, like I'm going to get there eventually, and I'm coming. It's taken a lot longer than I was hoping it would, but I think a lot of people, I say that not to talk about myself, but to tailor that back into, everybody, when you're taking notes, again, what we alluded to, in the middle of our conversation, like you're speeding up. It's kind of like having that baseline or finding that baseline. You're speeding up the amount of time it takes to get to even to a place to where you can start adjusting. Because I think there's a lot of people who think, well, as soon as I set the car down, we're going to start adjusting there. And it's like, not really. Like you're finding a baseline first, and then you start massaging on it. Because until then, it's kind of like what you just said. I mean, you're really wholesaling it until you find the baseline.
Yep. And what works for you? I mean, different driving styles, like I talked about before. Even tires. Like if you run a fresh set of tires, the first run on a fresh set of tires is not always the best run. It's not, because the tires have to seat themselves. If you're not doing other prep prior to, such as, foam buster, maybe a balancing with clay or something like that, your tires aren't going to seat and the foams aren't going to set in that groove of the wheel. So you're going to have some inconsistencies. So the first run out, I would say, is a wash. I wouldn't change anything. And then the second time out on a fresh set of tires, now you're getting somewhere. So don't think because you go out there on a fresh set of tires, you're like, man, my car's just all over. It's not consistent, blah, blah, blah. Give it another chance. Go out, go to the back end of the line, get back in the practice line, as everybody loves, and run it again. Because then you'll know.
And then one of the things you touched on there is driving style. And one thing that I wanted to kind of go, bring full circle is when we were talking about finding that one person. One of the things that, maybe we will disagree on this, but I think we will agree on it, is just as important as find that one person, you also need to find that one person that drives like you. I am not, talking about myself personally, I'm not a grip it and rip it guy. Like I have to be smooth. I'm not going to go out there and hold on to a car that's crazy junk, and I'm just not going to. But if I can be smooth, consistent, I'm going to be pretty decent. To where somebody like you, who's been around and I'll call you seasoned, if you will, like you can take a bad car and make it at least good, but from your finger or from your hands.
Mm-hmm.
But you also, I've watched you a lot. Like you can grip it and rip it when you need to. So it's not, finding that person who, if you're a grip it and rip it type person, then they need to follow somebody like yourself. But if they're not, then you need to go and find that smooth driver or that consistent guy. And not saying by any means you're not consistent by any means, but it's, having that flavor of ice cream, to quote you, it's very important all the way around, to really evaluate that entire package when you're getting help, not just find one person and annoy the hell out of them until you get fast. Like that's not going to work if you're on two totally different ends of the spectrum as drivers as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I would say I don't totally disagree with you there. The reason why I kind of disagree just a little bit is the fact that Zach and I gel together really well. And Zach and I's driving styles are fundamentally different. He is more of that smoother, less aggressive style driver in terms of how he likes a car. He likes a car that's a little more free than I do. I like the ability to have to muscle a car if I have to and still be able to stick it. So for us, we bounce off of each other really well, and we kind of complement each other in a way because we may be the opposite end of each other, if that makes sense. So for us, we kind of bounce back and forth on setups and things, but some of our approaches may align well. So just thinking about that too, because like my dad, for instance, I help him a lot with his cars and make sure that they're tight and right. He was able to win, the Masters of King of the Wings last year. So really cool thing. He set the fastest lap in the building, and I was giving him a hard time the whole weekend because of it. Like, what are you doing in Masters? You would have set the fastest lap in the building. But anyway, what I'm trying to get at is he likes a car that is more calm, a little tighter than maybe most would like, but it's something that he can wheel. It's something that he likes because that's his kind of driving style. So if he has to back it off early or pull the corner back to get some lingo in there, he'll do that and kind of make it work. It was a funny experience, talking about Dad. We were at the Chili Bowl last year, not this just passed, but previous year, and I set his Midwest mod up for the main, and he was kind of struggling a little bit. And then at the last lap of the race, after it was over, he just didn't lift through one corner all the way around, just did not lift. And the car stuck, and he was so mad about it. And to this day, he still brings it up. He's like, damn it, if I would have just drove it harder. And I'm like, I tried to tell you, it was ready to go. It was primed and ready. All you had to do was use it. So that's a huge part. I will leave with that note right there. Drive the car to its ability. If you're not driving the car and pushing the limits of your car, you'll never get faster because you're never fully achieving what it's set to do. So if you're babying it a little bit and you're not really testing the waters, your car will never show you what it's capable of. Essentially, is what I'm trying to say. So
Yeah. In this sport, hobby, whatever you want to call it.
Oh, it's a sport. I don't care what anybody says.
Thank you.
It's a sport.
Thank you. I flirt with that.
It's an
I think it's one too.
Sport. That's just what it is. Izzy said it best when we were talking previously, but yeah, it's a sport. Underground sport. We're calling it that.
Yep. And so in the sport, I think one of the most underappreciated things, because it is the easiest thing to do, it is so often the Indian, not the arrow.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it is so easy for everything that you just said. It is so easy to say the car won't hold that. The car won't do that. And it is so much the person driving it. And it's a cop out for all of us. I mean, it's so easy to blame that piece of junk and fling it and this thing sucks. But I think when people start looking inward is the day that they start getting faster. I know for me personally and a lot of other people that I talk to, like the day that we all started looking inward, it really that was the day that progression started.
Yep. Absolutely.
Cool, man. Well, okay, question number 2. One RC race every racer should go to.
Man, do I pick the low-hanging fruit or I go for a big one?
Just so you know, every person thus far has said Chili Bowl.
Ah, man. I'll tell you what. It depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for, I want to say Four Rocks, but that's kind of a selfish answer. I'm going to go with Motorama. I really enjoy going out to Motorama. I know it's in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and it's coming up in a couple weeks. That track has been through it all. The first year I went there, I swore I'd never go back, and the next year I gave it another shot. Glad I did. I took a year off, went back. So going back this year as well. They've battled a lot of adversity, and they've been able to keep that track going, which is an amazing feat because of what it was before. Folks that don't know, they had an issue with the dirt that they brought in or had brought in. The folks that were supposed to get it to them left it outside, it froze. There was clay involved, so when clay thaws, it's like Play-Doh, turn into cobblestone, the whole deal. But they have really turned that program around, and it sells out in 7 minutes. So if you're not ready or on the ball, you may not get a chance to go out there. But as far as local races go, I'm going to say Four Rocks is a good one. I know you mentioned one, but I'm going to name a few.
Give them all you got.
Cedar
I'll
Bluff
take all
Shootout,
of them.
Farmer City. This is our dirt oval, our big dirt oval race this year. So super excited for that. It's the first of its kind at Farmer City. We've had some big races in the area and at Farmer City, but it's definitely going to be something that's you're going to want to be at.
Heck yeah. Beautiful, man. And then last question I ask everybody, give me 3 people who should be on the podcast next behind you.
3 people that haven't yet. I think you got to get Eugene on here. I don't know if he'll do it or not, but you got to get him on here. I think, that you haven't already had. I'm trying to think here. You've had a few, and I should be able to name this, but on the spot, it's tough. I think you should get Justin Atkinson on here. He's not a very talkative person, and I think it would be great to get him on here. I know he was at the PT's thing, and that's cool too.
We couldn't get him to shut up about bodies. He was all about it.
He's probably about it more than anybody in the sport as far as that MR Customs body and that Mailman or any of the other ones you want to name. He's the body guy. He went through and tested more than I would ever want to be honest. More kudos to him. But the third guy I would say you'd probably like to get on here would be Brett Lund. Brett Lund is an East Coast guy. We keep in contact, and he's always coming this way to run with the Midwest guys and rub elbows with some of us loose dirt folks. He's more of a high buy guy out there, but he holds his own. So those three people would be my recommendation. Yeah, that's all I got.
Cool. Yeah, I know Mr. Lund. He's got beautiful equipment, kind of the Brandon Shepard or Rocket One esque cars, but his stuff is always pretty primo. Him and Rick Putnam always have typically the two best looking cars when they unload. So for
Absolutely.
sure, man. All right, dude. Anything else you got before we shut this thing down?
Not that I can think of. I'll probably think of it after we shut this down, but it's all good.
Cool, man. All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening to another episode. This is episode 6 of the Scale Labs RC podcast. This was Coale Dolbert, and I appreciate it so much. Thank you for your time, man.
Right on. If anybody needs any help, just let me know.
All right, guys. Thank you, everybody.
See ya. Bye.